horses later.
We can talk about horses all day. I need to use one of those.
All right, good morning, everybody. It is time for our segment called In Case You Missed It. I'm Joy Lynn Akron.
Hello, I'm Gurveer Dinza.
I think everybody knows who you are, but
We like to introduce ourselves anyway, just in case.
yeah. So this is In Case You Missed It because, in case you missed some of these stories that we're
Right.
talking about, you've got some interesting ones.
Okay, so here's the deal. Isn't this day just supercalifragilisticexpialidocious? Isn't it just an amazing day?
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Can
Did I
you
get
spell
it
that,
right?
Joy?
S-U-P-E-R. I don't think so.
Okay, how about just super?
S-U-P-E-R. I
Okay,
can say
super
that.
is easy. Super is easy. So we're talking about spelling today. So how about this word? Samophil. Can you spell Samophil?
I see it written up there.
Okay, hold it down, Maria. We don't want her to see it. Can you spell
cheating.
Samophil?
No, I can't.
Well, then you
can't.
would not have won the National Spelling Bee last year.
No, I
right?
wouldn't.
Because that was the winning word from the Scripps National Spelling Bee. And some young person spelled that correctly last year to take the grand prize, and the spelling bee is happening again this year. And listen to this. 2 of Georgia's brightest are actually taking the stage this year for the Scripps National Spelling Bee, and we want to introduce you to them. Take a look. This is 14-year-old Matthew Baber. Matthew is an 8th grader at Rising Star Middle School in Fayetteville, and 10-year-old Sarv Darvanay, and I hope I pronounced that right, is a 4th grader from Austin Elementary School in Dunwoody. The quarterfinals are and the semifinals are today, and then the finals are tomorrow. So here's my question to you, Joy.
Okay.
I always wonder about these kids that do the spelling bee. I'm like, do their parents open up a dictionary when they're 2 years old and they start filing through the dictionary and learning these words? I guess, does anybody even have a physical dictionary
Well, that's a
anymore?
whole other question. I don't even know
Right?
if people have a physical
I mean, have you
dictionary
ever thought
anymore.
about that? Because I
Yeah,
love
that's
watching
really,
it.
No, it's really interesting. I mean, I'm sure that their parents expose them when they're young, but I feel like to be that good, they've got to be self-motivated.
Yes.
They're passionate about it themselves. Like, they've got a curiosity, and they want to know how to spell things.
I know. So Brooks Baptiste and I were talking about this morning, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, I was a terrible speller in school." He's
Yeah.
so smart and so bright, but really, it takes. Some of these kids are really young. I mean, you're looking at Sarv is only 10 years old.
It's incredible,
right?
and I'm 43, and I don't know how to spell what he can spell.
Samophil. Hey, no, she's not over there anymore. I was going to say, could she look up what that means? Because that would be the other thing. What does that mean?
All right, I'm going to look it up.
Okay,
Here.
speaking of really smart students, how about rolling this one? A North Cobb High School student, one of only 28 from across the country, selected for the U.S. Navy Summer Flight
Wow.
Academy Aviation Program.
That's so cool.
This is Alexis Holmes, and Alexis is going to spend 8 weeks this summer at Delaware State University with some other 11th and 12th graders to complete the intensive training to achieve her FAA private pilot's license.
Wow.
And then get 5 college credits on top of all of that. So,
cool.
Today's, in case you missed it, is all about some really smart students. Hey, Maria, can you look up what that word means? So she's going to look up what that
We're back
means.
on the spelling
But,
stuff.
when I was thinking, when I was in the 11th and 12th grade, I wasn't doing stuff like this. I mean, these kids are really, really motivated
I know.
and smart.
They're really, really motivated.
It's an organism that prefers to thrive in sandy soils.
A Samophil?
Samophil.
Or maybe Samophile?
And it's spelled
It's probably
Samophile.
Let me
Samophile.
guess,
So we're
Samophile.
mispronouncing it too.
Probably.
How about that? So there you go.
Well, Gravir, they are whiz kids. They are truly prodigies, and you know what? We should all be proud.
That's
because they're from
exactly
here.
right. They're our future.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Gravir. I love
bet.
those stories. So appreciate it. All right, so here is for a story for the grown-ups. And sorry, give me just a second. See, I'm just not as smart as those kids. So it's taken me a minute with this technology here.
They're great at the technology too, sure.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I want to. Here's an adult story. We're
Okay.
talking about alcohol for a moment here, which of course, a lot of adults do enjoy those adult beverages. But there's been a big change now in downtown Brookhaven. So now you can walk from bar to bar with your drink in your hand. Dresden Drive's now called the Dresden District. It is the city's first open container area. Atlanta News First, Madeline Montgomery explains the new rules.
2, 3.
Cheers to a new era in Brookhaven.
I love it. It makes it nice. You can now kind of walk from different restaurants. It seems more communal.
Open carrying within the designated Dresden district is now legal until 10 p.m.
To be able to go all the way up, with your cocktail, if you want to go grab a slice of pizza up at Mellow, you can do that.
The new rule doesn't just benefit those partaking in an adult beverage.
We like to get out and we like to congregate and we like to share fellowship. And it's just encouraging that and encouraging the economic activity, encouraging people to not just visit one restaurant, but multiple restaurants.
Owners and managers in the restaurant industry are thrilled.
This whole street is trying to do music on certain days of the week and have these events. So I think it's real cool to be able to just go from bar to bar and restaurant to restaurant and bar hop a little bit, be able to drink and just see everything that the neighborhood has to offer without being contained to one location.
There are some rules in place.
A lot of people are like, oh, okay, great. So now when I have my tumbler, I'm not doing anything wrong.
Not exactly. Drinks have to be in these designated 16-ounce cups provided by restaurants and bars, and you have to stay within the Dresden district.
We talked to other jurisdictions that have implemented this. Our chief talked to many other chiefs and talked about all the possible problems that could happen. We talked to the business owners, and so therefore we were able to set the boundaries.
It caters to community and family and just having a good time and just staying in an area that you feel safe in.
Madeline Montgomery, Atlanta News First.
Thanks so much to Madeline for that report. Okay, let's talk about this Buckhead nightclub, which has become quite controversial. And it's been more than 2 weeks since a deadly mass shooting. And there's been a significant effort now to permanently close the Buckhead nightclub where this all happened. This week, the city of Atlanta took the first steps to make that closure happen. Atlanta News First has learned that after a mass shooting at the club on May 12th killed 2 people and wounded 4 others, the city petitioned the courts to actually shut down the club. Carly Barnett has more.
New documents filed Friday show the city of Atlanta is seeking a temporary restraining order against 1145 Lounge, its manager, the property owner's company, and others. According to the motion, that order would prohibit the club from holding events, serving patrons, or allowing any operations. On May 12th, the shooting there resulted in the deaths of 20-year-old Nakyrus Ridley and 21-year-old Mari Creighton. In a previous interview, Creighton's sister told Atlanta News First she wants to see the club shut down.
It's just not safe, and had I known that they had prior incidents like that, I probably would have encouraged my sister not to go.
Records show a rocky past for the business. Since June 2020, Atlanta police were called for 2 other shootings, 35 fights, and 38 noise complaints. And business records reveal manager Jabril Daif also operated Encore Hookah Bar and Bistro, another Atlanta club that the city shut down in 2022, citing safety concerns. Just last week, the city launched an investigation into 1145 Lounge. An online petition to close the club that started back in 2020 has gained more than 600 new signatures just this week, according to the site.
Thanks so much to Carly Barnett for that report. Okay, let's talk about this effort to really preserve the history in and around Metro Atlanta. Gentrification is certainly a hot button issue in our area, particularly in the city's historic neighborhoods. Well, now it is Historical Preservation Month, and Brittany Ford uncovers how really a lack of city funding is playing a role, according to many people. Here's a story that
At the corner of Hillard and Auburn Avenue sits a hidden gem that will take you back into the 1940s. Of what was an original Madam C.J. Walker beauty shop. Walker was a pioneer in African American beauty products who holds place in the Guinness World Records as the first woman to become a self-made millionaire.
Greetings. My name is Reese DeForest. That would be my proper name.
Tenant Reese DeForest stumbled on the property nearly 30 years ago.
This is an original flat iron. They were called pullers in those days.
That also housed the first ever black-owned radio station. Instead of renovating it into a new hair salon as intended, he invested in it.
I said, okay, it was inspiring for me. I need to preserve this. Maybe it would be inspiring for future generations.
In all throughout the Sweet Auburn neighborhood and communities across Atlanta are historical spaces and buildings that are changing shape with the times.
There's a love affair for real estate.
David Mitchell is executive director of the Atlanta Preservation Center.
As we see the constant development happening, if we do not encourage and embed historic preservation into that, then we're just making anywhere. We're not making Atlanta.
It comes at a time where the city of Atlanta is finalizing its largest fiscal budget in history. The drafted more than $800 million lacks historical preservation funding.
Historical preservation, unfortunately, is not required by the city's charter.
Councilmember Julian Bond is in the process of introducing a new commission dedicated to just that.
That's the goal of this historic commission, is to kind of fill that gap and also provide a way for the community to be actively involved in official historic recognition and preservation efforts.
To help support people like DeForest, who saw value in a piece of Atlanta's rich history and made a different choice.
Actually, I should not be coming out of my pocket 25 years later trying to preserve this. My time is finite. This legacy needs to be infinite.
In the 4th Ward, Brittany Ford, Atlanta News First.
All right, let's talk about evictions, and specifically wrongful evictions. Just imagine coming home to find an eviction notice on your front door when you actually own your house. Well, police say that a fraudster almost had a Sandy Springs family kicked out of their own home. I apologize, let me change the graphic here. Kicked out of their own home, and really a concerning trend. Atlanta News First Investigates has been exposing this for months. Well, now investigative reporter Sierra Cummings explains why families believe a loophole in the eviction process is kind of a criminal's paradise.
This is a story about how easily a wrongful eviction can happen to Georgia families.
I just don't understand how the whole thing can happen. I really, really don't.
How the whole thing happened to homeowner Sheila Gibson in just one moment. But first, let's get all caught up on the trend of stolen homes. For nearly a year, Atlanta News First Investigates revealed the progression of property fraud across the metro, all connected to deed theft.
Right now, we're in a crisis.
Thieves stealing the titles to homes. Old Georgia law made it possible. Under that state policy to file or transfer a deed on a house, no identification was required. Simply put, the state did not require anyone to actually prove they own the very property they're filing paperwork on.
Sierra, honestly, I'm speechless. That's insane.
Here are some of the deed theft allegations we tracked. Ultimately, we were credited for helping get a new state law passed, one that now requires proof for identification when filing deed paperwork. But since then, we've learned of a similar yet separate loophole when filing eviction paperwork. Turns out, no one has to prove they own the very property they're seeking an eviction on. Okay, now you're all caught up. Sandy Springs' grandmother, Sheila Gibson.
It upsets me just to even talk about it because I feel so violated.
Violated because at any moment she feels she could be kicked out of her Sandy Springs house on Riverside Drive.
Although I'm not affluent, we kind of, did a lot of sacrificing to buy the house.
Real estate records show she's been the owner since 2020, paying
$480,000. Okay.
She's the owner, yet when the 69-year-old pulled up to her driveway in December 2022, this sign was posted, scheduled to be evicted immediately by the Fulton County Marshal's Department. Magistrate court documents show deputies tried to execute the eviction once before in October too, but they were unable to gain access to the property. The case, a complicated web of paperwork problems. The suspect, Michael James Brough. Michael filed paperwork in the Fulton County Clerk's office claiming he was the agent of the Sandy Springs home, that the occupants had past due rent of $12,000. But remember, Sheila owns her house. She does not owe anyone rent, records confirm. What's more, the suspect even filed more paperwork alleging he'd previously served an initial eviction notice months earlier, claiming the defendant's failure to file answer in court should grant him possession of the property. Sheila says it's all untrue.
To me, it's so crazy how someone can just walk into an office, provide no identification. No one bothers to check on the computers that are in the office to make sure this person actually owns the home, if they have title. Nothing was done.
The alleged fake landlord was able to file all this paperwork without having to prove anything because state law does not explicitly require it when initially filing for evictions. As long as those initial documents are completely filled out, county clerks like Shay Alexander must accept it.
They e-file it, so it's an electronic process. They could be at their kitchen table.
Wow.
And they send it to us. We look to see if it's in proper form.
And so there's not even like identification, like they don't have to submit an ID?
Not at all.
They don't have to show a deed
that
they own the property?
Nothing.
Since we started our investigation, Sandy Springs police officially charged Michael James Brough with perjury, filing a false document, and forgery. They have not found or arrested him yet. Meanwhile, the Fulton Clerk's office confirms they are working on a property fraud task force in Metro Atlanta. To learn how to protect your house, text Stolen Home to 470-777-WANF. I'm Sierra Cummings. Atlanta News First investigates.
Sierra mentioned you can text Stolen Home to 470-777-WANF if you want to, if you have some concerns about that. And of course, we have all of our top stories on AtlantaNewsFirst.com. If you haven't done so yet, please download our free app to get updates sent right to your phone. Thanks for being with us.